Ruth Bader Ginsburg, U.S. Supreme Court Justice, passed at 87. As many of you know, today Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away at 87. She was affectionately known as Notorious RBG. She joined the Supreme Court in 1993 under Bill Clinton, and despite battling cancer 5 times during her term, she faithfully fulfilled her role until her passing. She was known for her progressive stance in matters such as abortion rights, same-sex marriage, voting rights, immigration, health care, and affirmative action. Justices on the Supreme Court are appointed for life. When a vacancy opens, the sitting president nominates a candidate, and that nomination is confirmed by the Senate. Until RBG's passing, there were 5 conservatives and 4 liberals comprising the 9 seats of the Supreme Court. Already there was some drama in this balance, as the Republican-controlled Senate in 2016 refused to confirm any appointment made at the end of Obama's second term, not on the merits of the individual nomination, but on the premise that his term was almost over and it was more appropriate to hand the nomination to Donald Trump, who nominated moderate Republican Neil Gorsuch, and later Brett Kavanaugh. Now it's looking like Trump will get to choose a third candidate before his term ends and swing the court even farther rightwards, despite the similarity in timeline to the previous kerfuffle with Obama's nomination of moderate Democrat Merrick Garland. This has big political ramifications for the balance of power in the coming decades, as, again, justices are appointed for life, and the Supreme Court's decision set the precedent for all the lower courts throughout the Union. For example, a 6-3 Republican majority and the loss of the fairly ardent liberal Ruth Bader Ginsburg could mean the overturning of the landmark Roe v. Wade Supreme Court decision that ruled that state and federal laws outlawing abortion were unconstitutional. By no means is this decision guaranteed by the changing balance. There was, for instance, a conservative Supreme Court during George W. Bush's tenure that never attempted to overturn Roe, but it is a flashpoint in American politics and an issue that looms large in the left-leaning segment of the American populace as Ginsburg's seat is decided. /U/CS Master. Mine gives a lot more background on judicial powers and some more nuance to judicial philosophy, and the ways it goes beyond simply liberal versus conservative in his answer here. Also worth mentioning that Obama in 8 years nominated 2 justices. Clinton in 8 years nominated 2 justices. GWB in 8 years nominated 2 justices. All of those were approved, at a rate of 0.25 justices per year. It's just sheer coincidence, and ludicrously dumb luck, that Trump, in 4 years, has nominated 3 justices, at a rate of 75 justices per year. It's just bananas. There's no other way to describe it. There is a thing called quantization error in measurement. If the SCOTUS is supposed to be a measurement or representation of the political views of the country, it's literally insane for one president to have, like I said, due to sheer dumb luck, been able to appoint literally 3 times the justices per unit of time. Even if you think the GOP are the good guys, you have to admit that the system is not sampling the country in a representative manner. Ludicrously dumb luck. It was not dumb luck. Scalia died before the election, so whoever won 2016 was guaranteed 1 nomination. RBG has had health issues for a while and there was always a danger of her not living until the next election. Even Breyer is old. Conservatives knew this and they knew how important the 2016 election was. Trump and other Republicans hammered this down repeatedly. Hillary was serious but the Democratic rank and file were not, and here we are. Look up strict constructionist versus interpretation. The former, typically conservative, believe that the U.S. Constitution, as it was written by its founders, is binding and not subject to the whims of time or progress. Changes, they posit, should be brought forth by a constitutional amendment, which is the case for, among other things, the abolishment of slavery, women's suffrage, the freedom of the press, free speech, and a well-regulated militia, guns, y'all. Strict interpretationalists, who are typically appointed by Democrats, believe that our Constitution is a living document and as such, its meaning and its reasoning must evolve with the times. There are surprises, like with our first female justice siding with the typical conservative court that would inevitably put George W. Bush in office, setting back our climate change progress decades. Or the recent vote where Trump-appointed Gorsuch did not vote for private companies to discriminate on the basis of sexual orientation or gender, to the shock and dismay of conservatives around the country. His reasoning was specific to a conservative judge, as he applied a strict constructionist logic to his swing vote. The Supreme Court has made our country what it is. One of their really major decisions put states' rights secondary to federal, which made us more like the US and less like the EU. Some of their decisions messed up society for a long time, Like in 1898 when they said it was okay to separate black and white facilities and programs, including schools, so long as they were equal. That decision took 56 years to reverse, and another 9 years to actually implement the reversal. There's a cool audio collection of court arguments called May It Please the Court. I learned that the rationale for abortion had nothing to do with whether life begins at conception or not, but about the burden that 9 months of pregnancy puts on a woman and should she be allowed to decide for herself whether or not she can accept that burden. The arguments were all about the actual state of being pregnant. Anyway, I think it's cool stuff. There's a lot of disrespect in this thread, and would it be too unreasonable to have more reverence to this comments in this post? Regardless of what side of the aisle you support, this was an intelligent, resilient, and wise woman. She gave judgments that benefited both sides and fought hard so she could retire peacefully in dignity. 40 years serving from the bench and she battled cancer 5 times, people. There's no reason to fight her spirit now too. No matter which party you support, you can admire her spirit to show up and deliver sound judgments. Give credit to her will to fight for liberty for all. She was not infallible, she was human. Like you, she made mistakes. It's been 10 years, she served the U.S. well and I hope she will meet her husband again. R.I.P. Not in the U.S. either, but the Supreme Court is the highest authority in the U.S. They for instance allowed gay marriage and abortion for the whole of the U.S. when those respective cases were brought before them while individual states were still banning them, among others. They are supposed to be impartial and cannot be removed from office. They do not get re-elected and serve till death, or maybe retirement, so they are safe from whoever is in charge right now and their influence. However, they are still chosen by the people in charge, so there is a bias towards that party. At the end of the Obama presidency, another court justice died and needed to be replaced. Obama put forth his candidate, but this was blocked by the Republican Party. Not entirely sure, you need to check this, but I believe it is the Senate that votes on the candidate, and at the time the Republicans did everything to stop this candidate to be elected, so that if a Republican got elected during the 2016 elections they could elect a judge they prefer. Well, obviously that happened. So, now a new judge died, which means there is an open vacancy that needs to be filled. However, it is very likely that Republicans, despite the election being so close, I believe closer than to Obama's end of term, will put their candidate through. This would mean that the highest court in the U.S. will be mostly Republican and or conservative-leaning, which will have repercussions for years to come. His rationale is so fucking despicable. It's different because it's a Republican Senate with a Republican president. The will of the people is sound because we didn't lose in the last election. Fuck you, McConnell. We don't even get to properly mourn a champion of human rights because of you. Everybody needs to vote as soon as early voting starts in your state. No excuses, no crying, no third-party protest votes. My daughters are not growing up in a nightmarish hellscape because you don't like Biden. McConnell in 2016 under Obama, because Scalia's seat had become vacant during an election year, the Senate would not even consider a nomination from the president. McConnell in 2020 under Trump, Trump's nominee for Bader's replacement will get the Senate's support. Declared immediately after RBG's death. McConnell is a shameless snake. What are his motivations? Why do Republicans respond well to their representative playing the system? What can America do to stop a party from playing with people in order to gain control longer than welcomed? Why don't Republicans and lawmakers see that this is a dangerous game? I have a mixed bag of feelings for Justice Ginsburg, but the largest emotion is definitely gratitude and respect. I am grateful for the trailblazing role she had for women in the legal world. She had such an incredible career, which is saying so much more considering her time. She talked often about being the only female in law school courses. She balanced an incredible career while also giving birth to and raising 2 kids. Those things were virtually unheard of in her day. As an attorney, I've read quite a few of Ginsburg's words over the years. I wasn't a huge fan of much of her legal reasoning, but I very much appreciated the role she played in the court. I sort of felt that she played to polar opposites to Scalia and Thomas, and that all 3 of them would regularly make up legal reasoning to get where they wanted to be politically. She was absolutely necessary in her extreme opposition, especially the past few years. It'll be sad to see her seat likely filled with someone from the opposite extreme. I wish our court hadn't become a political playground of presidents. In my utopian world, we'd figure out a way for justices to be moderate or regularly replaced. Then again, that's a massive pipe dream.